start. Okay, looks like it's taking its sweet time. Let's see if it happens. I don't know. Let's see. Ooh. Is it streaming yet? Is it? Is it? Because here it doesn't look like anything's happening. Hi everyone, if you're watching a recording, do fast forward about 2 minutes. Looks like internet's running really slow today. I'm gonna run a speed test real quick and see what happens. That's off, okay. Everything's up and running. Oh good, so Andy's reporting that everything's up and running. Let's see, just for yucks and giggles, let's see what we're running at. Not fabulous, but not horrible either. So I guess we'll be starting here in about 1 minute. Okay. All right, baby doll, I think we are just about there. I got everything sort of up and running here. I think it's set up. I'm sorry? Hi, Adrian. How are you out there? Aw. Hi, Angela. We got snow last night, too. Like 6 inches of snow overnight. It was 60 degrees 2 days ago. I know. That's what I get for saying, hey, it's 60 degrees out. Woohoo! How much snow did you get up there in Canada? So we're just going to start here in a second, waiting for my answer from Canada. wait. Let's see if I can show you a picture. I took a picture this morning. And just, oh yeah. Look at that. Let's see. Let's see if I can actually show that. You guys see that? Ton of snow. Oops, there we go. Ton of snow last night. Oh my gosh. We took bets last night, Andy and I, whether or not it would be, whether or not it was over 3 or under 3. Andy lost. I said over 3. He way lost. Woohoo. Anyway, yes, we can make snow angels. So you guys got away with it. Actually, everything's already melting. I think we're probably down to 3 inches at this point, but it didn't mean I had to go out. I didn't have to go out there and scrape off. We have a carport tent, so it was way too much snow. So I already did that today before it all went crazy. Anyway, okay, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. This is QFom Gray. I'm simulcasting on 4 channels on Twitch TV, Facebook, and YouTube. Thanks for joining me. The discussion today will be how to care for your tools. So let's just jump right in. It is, you know what? First things first about caring for your tools. If your tools are getting rusty and they're not great, well, can we start with loving your tools first? You got to consider how you're storing your tools because that's very important. Think about it for a second. This stuff is made of steel, and although it says stainless steel, all stainless steel have some portion of iron in it, and that iron is what's causing most of your rust, right? Or all of your rust, really. So depending on the quality of the tool you're getting, that iron level will be higher or lower, again, depending on the quality. So some tools will rust more than others. But what causes rust? So typically what causes rust is it's just basically like, it's just oxidation. So moisture and light is typically what causes rust. So moisture, if you live in, say, Florida, and you don't have air conditioning coming through and you have the windows open, well, not only do you have moisture, you have salt air. That's going to kill your tools every single time. So make sure that you eliminate that. And then light. Well, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they had pancake dyes and all of their dyes are rusted. And as we were talking, she did not realize that light had anything to do with it, because she said, well, from where it was before and where it is now, there's actually light in the box where she has it now versus where she had it before, and it's rusting much faster now. So there you go, proof in the pudding. So make sure that you remove any moisture out of your atmosphere and keep it away from light, especially when you're just storing it. Okay, so a couple things, strategies that you can do to remove moisture. Of course, a dehumidifier or an air conditioning unit is typically something that's really nice, but they're sort of expensive, and not everybody lives in an environment that's even conducive of having those two things, right? So what you can do is you can save all of these things. They come in your shoes, they come in various things, and it's silica, and it's meant to reduce, it's meant to gather moisture. So what I do is I take these and I actually put it into my my tool caddy. And I didn't even think about this, but I'm going to show you on this camera what my tool caddy looks like. You see, there it is. So there's my tool caddy with all my other mess running around. And you can just put these, especially like with the files up here, I put them inside all the way down in the bottom. So just drop these in like so. By the way, you can make this tool caddy all by yourself if you want to. It's just made of PVC pipe, and I've been loving this for the last year. It's like the best tool organizer that I've been able to come up with since I've been doing this. But you don't want your shears to rust either, so by throwing them in there, that's helpful. Another thing you can do too that's really inexpensive is rice. I saw this somewhere and I really like the idea. So what they're doing is they're taking cans and filling it like halfway with rice, and they're sticking their tools inside of there, and it eliminates a lot of moisture and it keeps their tools less rusty from getting rusty. So I'm pretty sure if you did it with beans, probably would work too. So another thing that you can think about. So those are 2 tips for you as to how to keep moisture out of your tools. But let's just say it's happened. As you can see here, I only pulled a small bench block. I do have bigger ones, but anyway, happen to have the small one, and I don't use it. It just sort of sits on the shelf for now. And as you can see, it's gotten rusty. How do you remove that rust? Let's go over that. So lots of different ways. You can take out a brush. You can take a steel brush. You can buy really inexpensive steel brushes from the hardware store. You can even buy them from the dollar store, okay? I guess had I even thought about it, I could have gotten my dollar store one. But anyway, I'm using a brass brush today because it happens to be here on my workbench. But you just go at it and you just start removing all that rust. But frankly, depending on how many tools you have and how bad this is, that just takes way too much time. So what did I do? I went out and bought an industrial size one, and I put it on my drill. Okay, my cordless drill, and I just go at it like this. So you want to get that rust off before you do anything else, because it's funny. As I was reading things on the internet about this, someone says rust begets rust. And it was sort of cliche-ish, but I totally agree with them. I feel like as soon as you get a rust spot, it just sort of grows and starts eating everything up. So I try to keep this to a minimum. But what you'll do is you just sit here, and this would go a lot faster with this nice, big, industrial, heavy-duty steel brush. And I'm just taking this off. If you have something like this, you'll feel it. You'll feel the surface, and you can feel the lumps of rust that has grown from the surface of your metal, right? So just remove it like this. Now, some people prefer to take out some sort of a solvent. There's lots and lots of different solvents out there to do this with. And so they take a solvent with a rag and they rub it off. Again, I just like to do this very quickly, or else I just don't want to spend my whole day doing this. I just do it like so. Duh. Just work it. And And I know I wasn't really nice to this, leaving it there for so long, because I can see pits now that all the rust is coming off. I'll zoom in and show you here in a second. But I'm just working this. Until I have a nice smooth surface. And then I'm going to switch out to sandpaper. But again, this gets it really, really close to where I want it to be. You can definitely do this, as I said, with a rag and some solvent to get that going, right? But can you see this? You can see the little pits in there. So this is my first step. And then next up, I'm going to use sandpaper, because what that's going to do is it's going to refine my surface, right? Okay. Now, by using a rust remover, I find that I can't get into the little tiny pits. It really just takes off the surface. So by doing it with a brush like so, it really gets into those pits and gets those the rust off. So you can see there's already a change, which is great. So once I get it to about there, I'm going to switch out to sandpaper. And I'm using a fairly heavy grit sandpaper. This is just a cheapy 150. And go at it. Because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to refine the surface of my metal. This being a bench block, you know, these little pits in here, it's going to transfer to my metal when I'm chasing something. And that's not good. But here's a tip for you. If you have a bench block, especially a new one, you want to go ahead and mark one side to save, like put an X on it. And so you do all your heavy duty chasing on one side, and you save the other one for light chasing. Therefore, you won't get pits. So you save one side for nicer things and the other side for wailing on your pieces. So what's sort of funny is this is not even my bench block. It was given to me. So if you don't like getting rust on your bench block, you can always buy an anodized bench block from theurbanbeater.com. You never get rust on those. But in any case, that wasn't the point of this video today. Okay, so it's just going to sit here and we're going to sand it. See, it's all starting to come off. And if you don't want these pits, literally just sit here and sand it until it is gone. So you see it's starting to disappear. You can see the difference, the coloration. Of course, if you had a hand sander, that would be really nice, right? The problem with most people, or the hesitation with most people, is they're afraid to ruin their tools. And I understand that. But if you leave the rust there, it's going to get worse. And you're better off to at least try to get it off than to leave it. So part of loving your tools is to not expose it to things it shouldn't be. Like, don't put pickle on here. It's not good. Make sure that your piece is completely dried off before you put anything on a steel bench block. Same thing with your other tools. You know, your hand tools, they're steel too, and they need the same amount of love. So make sure that your pieces are nice and dry and rinsed off of pickle, because you know what? Pickle is meant to remove metal. What do you think is going to happen here, right? It's going to eat at that metal. So make sure that your pieces are nice and dry. Okay, see, we're almost there. I didn't even realize how bad this was until I was doing this. So had I thought of it, I would have taken out my hand sander, the power tool, my cordless hand sander, and hit this. It would have gone a little bit faster. But then what you want to do after you've hit it with a heavy grit like this is to grit it down, because you know you want that really nice polished finish. And like anything, I just like to stroke my metal. I do that with jewelry making too. So here I'm doing it with cleaning my bench block. Okay. By the way, Andy is with me, so if you have any questions, do shout out, and he will share your questions with me. Okay, now I'm putting a lot of aggression in here, see if I can get this any better. All right, so this is going to take quite a while, but again, you can see how the surface has completely changed, and it has gotten better. So once you've done this, and you're happy with what you've removed, by the way, I would continue to do this until it looks like this. I would get all those pits out, okay? But it's like watching paint dry, so you don't want to do that. I would refine it with a finer grit sandpaper. So I would refine it. I would go back and refine this with like a 400 to get it really, really nice and smooth so that it doesn't transfer, that texture does not transfer to my metal when I'm chasing on it. Okay. So make sure that you're not in the sanding process and in the cleaning process that you're not creating gouges in your metal or in your tools. Okay, you want to take that out. All right. That said, let's move on to something else. I know I could do this all day long. This makes me happy. Cleaning things always makes me really happy. So anyway, okay. So then comes your hand tools. It's the same thing. It's no different. So I have just a little bit of rust there. I'm just gonna remove it, right? Just like so. No big deal. Now, unless your tools are plated, which they really shouldn't be, I know it's a really weird thing. For a while there, some of these manufacturers were plating their tools just to make it look pretty. Now, let's explain it for a second, okay? The reason why they're plating their tools is because, you know, tools take a long time to get from Asia across the ocean all the way here, sits on a shelf, then gets that's shipped to the consumer. So that amount of time, more than likely, a steel tool is going to rust. So what they discovered is if they plate it, it wouldn't rust and it would look pretty and no one would complain. But the problem with that is through use, the plating will slough off. And that's really bad because, for several reasons. Because if it sloughs off into your soldering, that might cause a problem, okay? Or when it sloughs off, it may, if it's not even, you'll have like gouges, highs and lows in your tools. I've seen that before. And if that's the case, you know, it's easily remedied. Just take out some sandpaper and sand off all of the plating. In the end, what is under there is just steel, right? So the tool is perfectly good. Just take off that plating. If you happen to have acquired a tool that for some odd reason they had decided to plate. So you can see all that rust is off, but let's go to a tool that's like really crappy. So this is a dollar store tool that I love. I don't know why, but I've had this one for at least 15 years, and clearly I don't care for it very well, as you can see. So today is a day it's getting a touch up. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to my 150 grit here, and you'll see how this is going to clean up. So this is my quote-unquote hot tool. What's a hot tool? A hot tool is a sacrificial lamb, okay? It's a usually you want to go with inexpensive ones like the dollar store one here, and you use it. You can tell that I've torched onto it because you don't care because they were $1, because you needed something more stable to grip other than a pair of fire tweezers, right? That's what they call a hot tool. I did not make it up, I promise. I actually read it in a book somewhere about 15 years ago. I thought it was a really interesting concept. At the time, I thought it was pretty appalling, but I'm going with it now. Okay, so see? So the question is, what about rust on files? I'll get there. I got a file sitting here. Okay, so while you're doing this, something you might want to consider doing also, okay? The inside, you can see the inside's a little bit rusty too, is when you buy an inexpensive tool like this, what they don't do is they do not refine the edges. If you feel them, they're pretty rough and sometimes sort of sharp. That will transfer over if you're using them for, say, wire wrapping or bending wire. That roughness will transfer into nicks and mars on your onto your metal. So what you can do while you're doing this is refine that outer edge just a little bit, just to give it a slight bevel, slight radius, and that will prevent a lot of marring. So the question I see there, can you soak a tool in vinegar before sanding it to get the rust off? You know what? I don't know that one. Never tried it. Vinegar. And acid. You know, I would say that if you do use that, you need to get it off. Like, make sure that it is completely cleaned off when you're done. Another thing too is if I was to soak anything, any of my tools, I would not soak it to the handle. I would just do the tips that are of concern. Okay, so notice how much cleaner that is on the inside there, and I'll do it on this side too. And again, you know, these are really inexpensive. This was a really inexpensive pair of pliers, and I've never bothered to clean up the sides, but we'll just do it now. So you might want to consider on your chain nose, your flat nose, these long nose, even your bent nose, to just slightly take off the edges and make it nice and smooth. So you just do this until you're happy, but be careful, okay? Notice how, well, obviously I've ruined them, but that's okay. Notice how nice and tight they are. You could potentially grind this so far down that they no longer come together. So be careful about that. Remember, the whole point here is just to remove the rust, right? Okay. So we're going to clean that up. And there you go. You can also take out some steel wool and refine this a little bit if you want to. By the way, here's another tip for you. In the world of tools, the best tools come from, ready, Europe, then the US, then China, then Pakistan, then India. It's all about quality of steel. And so when you're looking at tools, that's how you want to look at it, and you'll understand the price point really quickly, right? But basically what you're paying for is not only the precision of manufacturing, but you're paying for a higher grade steel. So if you're looking at your body of tools, your collection of tools, you'll notice that the European and American ones probably are not as rusted as the ones made from India and Pakistan. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna stop. I always keep old t-shirts, cut up t-shirts, and let's see, to clean this up. Okay, so the question is, what about nylon jaw pliers? I'm assuming you're talking about something like this, where one of them is steel and one of them's nylon. First of all, my recommendation always is, if you buy nylon nose pliers, buy the ones that are replaceable. Don't buy the ones that are disposable, because really, what are you going to do with it, right? However, if you did buy the disposable ones that don't have replacement heads, do recycle the pliers when you're done, because the steel is very recyclable. But it's the same thing here. So if you find that these have rusted, it's going to be the same thing. You'll just take out some sandpaper or a brass brush and just clean it up. Okay, and I would just clean up that end of it. If you find that, let's say for mine with the screws, if it is rusty inside of here, I would just remove the nylon head, clean it all up. If I had a rusty screw, I would just get rid of those and put new ones in. Actually, I would recycle them and put the new ones in, because I truly feel like, I don't know if it's real or not. I could be making it up. It could be, one of those things that you've made up in your brain. But I feel like when you have something that's rusty and you leave it there, it just sort of grows from there. That it doesn't ever stop. So you want to stop that completely. Okay, so let's go to files. How do you clean up files? It's actually really simple. You want to just take out either a steel brush or a brass brush, preferably brass. It's a little softer and it won't ruin your files. And just go at it. You want to look at the grain in which direction it's going, and you want to get in there really nice. So you can see it's coming right up. And what I like to do is I like to take out my brush to get that dust out as I'm cleaning that. But I believe that's the best thing, that's the best you're going to do. Definitely your files, you want to make sure that you keep it in, like throw some of these silica packs in with your files, because it's really hard to keep the rust off. Now, sometimes you do file things wet. Make sure that you completely dry it off before you put it away. A friend of mine also, she took out her heat gun. I thought that was really interesting, to make sure that after she cleaned up took the time out to do this process, to make sure that everything was completely dry before she put it away. So I think that was a really great way to go, is how to ensure that your tools are dry when you're cleaning it up. So there you go. That's what you can do. Okay, so then I've got this baby. Oh, these are like the bane of my existence. I feel like no matter what I do, I'm constantly cleaning these things up. And maybe I need to find a better box to store it in. But to do these, what you can do here is, look, a steel end brush. Okay, you can use that, or a cup brush. This is going to make life a lot easier, because this is not going to get into all these little spaces, right? And I can tell you can probably see it, is I have some rust right in there. Yay! Oh. Oh, that makes me so happy. Now I'm going to pull out my other 2 blocks and do this too. Okay. So once you've cleaned it, what do you do with it? You have to lubricate them. Now, a lot of you have noticed that when tools come, they come in oil. They come packed in oil. Now, we've gotten some complaints about that. But you know what? It's a good thing that they come packed in oil, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to prevent it from rusting between the time it's manufactured to the time it reaches a consumer. The oil in there is really very benign. It's no big deal. Just wipe it up, and again, you have these rags, right? Your old t-shirts. So just wipe it up and throw it away. Just use your rags. It's a really great way to go. By the way, rags are recyclable. Okay, just those big bins that you find in like the grocery store parking lots, asking for old clothes for the poor. Believe it or not, most of those are run by mills, okay, by textile mills. And what they do is they take clothes that are ripped and are not wearable or donatable, and they mill it down and they make new rags out of them, and they sell to Home Depot. They take the profits from there and they donate it to the homeless, which is really cool. And through conversation with them, I discovered that they would take this rag. So I actually have a bin that we save these old rags, and you don't even have to clean it, okay? You can give it to them with oils and dirt and all that stuff. I start a bin and I just throw these rags in there, and when it's ready to donate, I put it in a bag and I put a big sign on it that says for salvage, so that they know there's nothing usable in there and that it all needs to be milled. Anyway, okay. So the question is, should you have a dedicated brush for steel so there's no cross-contamination? Probably. Yeah. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I think that's, if you're taking off this amount of rust, yeah. Typically, I don't use the brush from my workbench. I have ones that are in the garage that I keep for all the tools in the garage and for this kind of heavy duty cleanup. But I would dedicate it. And frankly, I wouldn't use my expensive jewelry brush either. I go back to that dollar store brush, right? Because does it really matter that it's an inexpensive brush? No. It's probably a good thing. Then you can spend your money on better tools, right? Anyway, okay. So the other part of this, after you have cleaned all of this up and you have removed all the rust, if you don't use your tools daily or even weekly, right, and they just sit there and they're sitting in some place questionable, how can you keep the rust from from coming back, okay? First of all, there's no 100% anything. This is nature, it's science, it's physics. This is what will happen to steel, okay, unless you're using plastic tools. So what you want to do is you want to create a barrier on your tools, okay, from the oxygen. And you know, again, there's a lot of products out there to remove rust, and some of them will tell you that it's good to prevent rust, but I'm not completely convinced of that. What you want to do is you want to look up the MSDS sheet and see what the ingredients are in their product. Because I noticed looking up some of this this week is that some of them, they don't have anything that really could protect your tools. So what do you need to create that barrier? It's either oil or wax. One of those two things, right? So you want something like, I understand that butcher's wax, something I have not invested in, is a good thing, or Johnson's wax. I actually, believe it or not, I use cooking oil. It's a thing. And it has worked just fine for me. Right? Oops, okay, let's see. So here at the Urban Beater, we use gun oil, although that's sort of expensive. And I also see that someone had mentioned that they use sewing machine oil. So sewing machine oil is really a great lubricant. It is. Only thing is, it depends on how many tools you have. That's one. Because two, it's fairly expensive. But, and three, not all of us have it. I know I have some, but I'm just saying. So again, I just use a little bit of vegetable oil, and I put it on my rag, and I just go through and give it a really nice thin layer. Some people prefer a synthetic that has a microcrystalline, I think they call it, and that's fine too, but I just go in and put a little bit everywhere, like so. I don't get too crazy with this stuff. You're just trying to create a microscopic layer to prevent oxygen from getting to it and moisture from getting to it. So then there's also the question, how do you clean tools with rounded ends so you don't lose a curve? Hold on, I'll grab one. I'll show you. Okay. I don't know. I'm getting all excited about doing this. Okay, so the question is 3-in-1 oil is good? The verdict is out on that. Everything I'm looking at tells me that maybe. Some people say yes, some people say no. If you don't know what 3-in-1 oil is, 3-in-1 oil is the stuff that you put into your lawnmower that you mix with gasoline. You know, I know that 3-in-1 oil is good for when we're drilling things, okay? But verdict seems to be out on that. Frankly, I'm all about natural. So, you know, waxes are not a bad thing. And like I said, cooking oil. Just put a thin layer on it. And I had a question the other day also but cooking oil does go rancid. What do you do with that? Again, I'm okay with it drying out on my tool if it prevents rust. I just go in and clean it off. Right? It's better than having rusty tools, because remember, if your tools get rusty, it will pit. So imagine pitting inside of your dapping block, and when you go to dap it, you don't have a smooth surface anymore. Now you have a pitted surface. So, I'm sorry? What about coconut oil? I don't see why not, was the question. So if you have, yeah, again, I just try to keep this stuff simple, right? So rounded edges, I would be really careful. I probably would not jump into a 150 to do this, but I'm using a 400 right now, and you just want to go at it gently, like so. And I would probably hit it with the brush, okay, like on here. Brushing is not a bad thing. It will keep from sanding any of the edges off. It's really just working into those little pits, hopefully, and cleaning it all up. Unfortunately, I don't have anything round that's rusted here, but let me keep looking. Maybe I do. No, I got nothing round that's rusty. Anyway, so you want to go ahead and use a brass brush or a steel brush on there, and that will prevent you from taking off the edges. And just do this carefully. I would not sit here. Did you notice how I was doing this? I was going in circles like this to maintain the integrity of the shape. I wasn't going at it like this because you don't want to create a plane, right? It's a round surface. So I see somebody says that they're using mineral oil. Mineral is, from what I understand, is a very good way to go. Unfortunately, the only problem with mineral is when you buy it, buy a whole quart. But some of you guys already have it in your garage, which is great. Pull it out and use it. It's not a bad thing, okay? Do you have to clean off the oils before you use it? Probably not a bad idea if you're soldering the pieces, right? Because it might transfer. Depending on how much you have on there, it might transfer. Because remember, when you are soldering, you gotta make sure that your surfaces are clean, okay? So, but another way to prevent that too is, let's just say your piece did get oil transferred onto it. Heat it up, burn it off, pickle it, and then start soldering if you think that's the problem. Again, if you're receiving tools that have so much oil in it, like the disc cutter, we have that special on disc cutters for $155. I've gotten plenty of phone calls. Oh my gosh, this thing has so much oil on it. What do I do? I'm like, take out a paper towel, preferably a rag, and just clean it off. Also, another thing too is a lot of times the oils makes a suction on pieces and make it seem like they're stuck together. It should just release. You just have to sort of work at it, okay? So I would never put soap and water onto my tools to clean it off, clean off those oils. Just do it with a rag. It'll be fine, okay? But there it is. Hopefully I answered your question. Thanks for asking that question about the round tools, because I just made my one of my favorite tools really nice again. Woohoo! I really don't, let's be honest, I really don't take the time out to do this very often. I'm too lazy. I got other things to do. Did I mention that we're doing project number 100 on Saturday? Yep, it's a free Zoom on Saturday. We are doing the reliquary project at 10 o'clock. The link has been posted on my Facebook page, QTalk. So if you want to join us, it's a free Zoom. And if you want a kit, they are still available at theurbanbeater.com. If you just go to classes, or you can do a search for reliquary. So what else is going on? So I think that's it. Next week we are going to, on Monday, continuing the Mix It Up Mondays, and we're going to do the enamel piece. And then on Wednesday, we are going to start up Step-by-Step Surprise again, and it is going to be spherical. So if you haven't gotten your kit yet, they are still available. Great project. It's going to have some movement in it. There's another hint for you, and it'll be a lot of fun. So anything else? I think that's it in a nutshell. And if you have any questions, do send it out to me. And thanks again for hanging out. It's just a quick one today. Hopefully you picked up a couple of tips and learned a few things. Making sure here, I'm going to look at my list, make sure I covered everything. So last point, okay? Oxygen, moisture, light. Keep your tools away from that. All right, thanks for liking the posts, or thanks for liking the videos. Thanks for sharing the videos. Really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys on Monday. It was a quick week this week because we just finished Virtually Ever Crafting and I'm still working on it. Hey, by the way, if you attended Virtually Ever Crafting, do us a favor and review our instructors and review the event. Help us grow and learn and make a better event. Next event is October 20th through 24th. So looking